All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the NPTE podcast. This is Will Crane, your host. Thank you so much for joining me as we talk about the content you need to know in order to absolutely dominate on test day. And let me just tell you, if no one has said thank you to you today, let me tell you thanks. Thanks for all that you do. Thanks for the effort that you're putting into this. I appreciate that it is a very lengthy and difficult process at times. It can be very isolating. But let me tell you, it's worth doing, and I appreciate the efforts you're putting into it. It'll benefit not just you, but also your patients for many years to come. So thank you for doing that. So today, as we go through the podcast, maybe a little bit out of order today, I wanted to talk about video questions today for a moment. I know that in late 2022 and now in 2023, the FSBPT has implemented video-based questions in order to start to test you on the content of the NPT, perhaps give you a bit more of a real-life type experience. This is because, as you know, as PTs, we get to be very dynamic. We're always analyzing patients in real time, which means that honestly, image-based questions and text-based questions are fabulous for a lot of reasons. However, there's nothing that will replace video-based questions to see if you can analyze what in the world is going on and make decisions based on that. So today we'll be talking about a video question. Those of you who are listening to the audio version of this podcast, I'd encourage you to go out over to YouTube, where you can check out our channel, ptfinalexam.com. You go to youtube.com, search for PT Final Exam or at PT Final Exam. You'll be able to find our channel quite easily. You'll be able to listen to this, episode 91, a video on neuromuscular interventions. And so I wanted to throw this in because I feel like it's extremely pertinent to your studies. And so we will be showing that video here in the video podcast form. Is there such a thing as a video podcast? So those of you who are watching this are enjoying the video podcast as we speak. So just a reminder that as you are preparing for the NPT, PT Final Exam, we've got everything you need in order to prepare. Be sure to watch for our VIP classes as well as our crash courses as we get closer to test day. As you're listening to this podcast episode, likely you're either on your way or you're at the combined sections meeting. Be sure to stop by our booth over at CSM. You can find us and check out all the other NPT stuff that we have available to you. And we'd love just to see you and say hi and pick up some swag and be on your way. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and dive into our question here for today. So as you know, the neuromuscular section, and again, this is maybe slightly out of order from our regular podcast episodes, but I wanted to make sure to throw in this video. But for neuromuscular and nervous system, this is the second largest system on the test, and you can expect questions from each of the three categories: examination, differential diagnosis, and interventions. And in this case, we're talking about interventions, so this would be representative of about 15 to 17 questions on the current content outline. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this. Again, those of you who are watching or listening to this, I should say, in the audio version, I'll try to describe things to you, but I would encourage you to check out our YouTube channel where you can find all of this. Also, I'll post this over on our Facebook page as well. You can find our Facebook group, NPTE Resources by PT Final Exam. Great place to find more content. All right, so the text of the question says, while performing the test shown in the video, the patient is able to reach forward 10 inches or reach 10 inches forward, 25 centimeters. Which of the following interventions will be most appropriate? Lunging forward, progressing from mini lunges to full lunges, reach and catch a ball at various speeds and heights, single leg stance with external focus on attention, or external focus of attention, I should say, and 4, sitting on a therapeutic ball without permitting rolling. All right, so as we talk about video questions, again, those of you who are listening to the audio version, I'd encourage you to come watch the video version. But as you consider video-based questions, this is the only time that I recommend reading the question backwards, meaning that before analyzing the video, get a clear understanding of what the answer options are. Then you can go back to the video and make a thorough analysis. And so as we look at the answer options, we've got lunging forward, progressing from mini lunges to full lunges, reaching and catching a ball at various speeds and heights, 3, single leg stance with external focus of attention, and 4, sitting on a therapeutic ball without permitting rolling. These are all interventions, and so now we go to the video. The video is showing it's a man who's standing with a clenched fist, is standing sideways to the wall, or I should say parallel to the wall, and leaning forward with a closed fist, and the examiner is marking how far the patient's arm is able to travel forward as the patient leans forward. So again, we have a patient who's leaning forward approximately 10 inches. Which intervention would be best? Well, so as you know, this video is showing what's called the functional reach test. So the functional reach test, this is when a person is reaching forward and you're trying to detect what their limits of stability are, or their ability to reach forward. In a sense, this is called anticipatory or feed-forward balance. Anticipatory or feed-forward balance. So as you watch the video, or if you ever see anyone who's doing the functional reach test, you'll note that in order to reach forward, they have to stick their butt backwards in order to compensate for the forward reaching. So this is what's called anticipatory balance testing, to anticipate what you are about to do and then make compensations for that. So the correct answer here is to reach and catch a ball at various speeds and heights. This is an example of anticipatory or anticipation for balance control. So as you think about it, if someone tosses a ball to you, let's say they toss it to you just at waist level, they toss the ball to you and you're able to catch it, you compensate for what you would expect the weight of the ball to be, the speed of the ball. But if I start tossing it to you to the side, or maybe a little bit higher, or maybe a little bit faster, you will anticipate that speed and direction and be able to make changes to your balance based on that in order to accommodate the catching. So that's an example of a feed-forward or anticipatory balance test. This is different than a reactive balance test or a reaction balance test. This is where, in a reactive type balance test, you are introducing a perturbation and seeing how they respond to it. So for instance, you have them stand, you push on them, and you see if they do a step strategy, a hip strategy, an ankle strategy. That's an example of a reactionary or reactive test. This is an anticipatory or feed-forward test. These other examples, lunging forward, progressing from mini lunges to full lunges, single leg stance with external focus of attention, or sitting on a therapeutic ball. These are all examples of either static or dynamic balance, meaning that, for instance, as you're standing on one leg, that's a static balance. There's no other force required. You're just standing on one leg. That is static balance. If you're sitting on a therapeutic ball and not permitting rolling, that's an example of a dynamic balance, almost like you're trying to hold yourself still against a mobile or moving surface. Again, an example of dynamic balance. Certainly there's some crossover in some of these balance strategies. However, you want to see what their problem is. So again, the functional reach test is an anticipatory balance test, and then you introduce an intervention that will directly affect that feed-forward balance test. So there you go. As you can see in the image, this is the functional reach test. Normative values are somewhere between 13 and 15 inches, depending on age. It's a little bit higher for younger patients, a little bit lower for older patients. You can see lots of normative data for that. Slightly different for men and women, but approximately 13 to 15 inches or 33 to 40 centimeters. So with that, we'll go ahead and bring this session to a conclusion. Again, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. As always, be sure to check us out on the other avenues where you can find us. So we talked about our YouTube channel, a lot of great content. You can also listen to these podcast episodes over on YouTube. You can see see my smiling face there as well. You can also check this out over on our NPTE Resources Facebook group. Totally free to join. Usually lots of giveaways and fun tips and tricks. So check us out. I'll include the link to that in the podcast description, as well as on our YouTube channel, so you can check us out over on Facebook as well for our Facebook group. So with that, we'll go ahead and bring today to a conclusion. Again, thank you so much for your great help and participation. Will Crane fist bumps all around. I'll catch you in the next episode. Have a fabulous day and happy studying.